However, none of this happens without the largesse of the French government, and that's surely a little optimistic.
I won't lie to your viewers, Mark, because they're sound people and they know that we've spent around, £200 million over the last 5 to 6 years, and the numbers have actually gone up. And I know that the Prime Minister's in a difficult spot. He has to build relationships with members across the world. He has to obviously maintain that professional relationship. So I get that he's in a much trickier spot than I am to be much freer.
So you can be honest about Mr. Macron.
So I think Mr. Macron has turned a blind eye to this. I think the fact that they're being ferried through France as quickly as possible and into small boats is something he's happy to just let carry on and make that become Britain's problem. Actually, it's a French problem, and if they don't stop this downstream, all it means is that, you know, those northern French towns get destroyed, get taken over, build a bad reputation, and ultimately the pressure's then put on our border force, our public services, our NHS, our school places, and it's just not right. And so when it comes to the good news is we're going to have British boots in Calais finally, and I think that will be always a good wake-up call for the French to actually see how the British operate, a lot more efficient, a lot more sort of get-up-and-go spirit, and I think our border force can teach their guys a thing or two. For example, you don't sit in a jeep and watch a dinghy take off. You try and stop the dinghy from being going into the water. Yes,
I mean, do we know how much of an impact these measures will actually have? Because clearly the Albanian factor is going to be, I think, quite transformative. If you think that upwards of 1,000 people have been arriving illegally across the Channel on a daily basis, then that possibly eliminates a third of those people if they're Albanian. But what about the other 600 or so folk? How many of those will you know, those crossings be prevented by what we've heard today?
Well, what I like is that if you're landing here illegally and the Prime Minister made clear new legislation coming in the new year, then you will be deported.
Which is an Australian policy, isn't it? If you enter the country illegally, you will not get asylum.
And you will not have a right of return to this country if you try again, and obviously you lose your right if you try and come back a second time. So I think this is you lose, you know, those rights again to even try and applicate. We're just going to put you straight off the boat, on the plane, and off you go. These are the type of things that we should have been doing and we are now doing, and I think we'll be music to people's ears. But again, I understand the scepticism that some people say. We've heard the talk, we need to actually see the action. But I will give Rishi credit where he ultimately deserves. The amount of conversations I've had with him, colleagues have had with him, the level of detail he's been able to go to in the end-to-end process, he really has devoted a lot of time. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for making this a number one priority quite clearly to me and to my colleagues.